Michelle Markey with Medina Domestic Arts Studio. And one of the questions I always get, whether in class or at a quilt show, is where do you get your patterns? Well, I'm going to give you some of the favorite sites that I go to get embroidery patterns, but let's focus on embroidery patterns for the moment. Now, I am on my all-time favorite site here, which is Embroidery Library. And right off the bat, they always have sales. Now look at this, 70% off, 80% off. In fact, if you see this set of 6 stained glass patterns, I actually have used those, made them into a quilt, and have those out on my website available for sale as a stitched out block to purchase. So since this is up here and it makes it very handy for me to show you this, let's go hit the shop and explore button. And let me show you just exactly why I chose that. Oh, even better. Oh my gosh. It's almost like they knew I was going to do this video. Let's go to this favorite one of all favorite classes that I teach. I'll be in my office. So I'm going to click on this. And right off the bat, if you're watching this and you have an embroidery machine, let me encourage you to go out and get this pattern at this price. That's a lot better price than what I paid for it. But why did I choose this pattern to begin with, other than the fact that it is focused on quilting? Well, one of the things that I really like about this, and let me see if I can zoom in here, is notice all the black outlining there is throughout the entire pattern. This is something that I always look for in any new potential fabric painting design that I'm looking for. It's really critical to have those nice sharp lines so that when I go to enlarge this, which I'll show you here in a minute, it makes the pattern maintain itself and it doesn't get skewed. Now, some of those patterns that we were looking at earlier, these stained glass garden blocks right here, I will warn you that if you get these much bigger than, say, 120% of their original size, these will start getting skewed and you'll start seeing some really weird stitch outs. And unless you are willing to spend the time to fix it, you are just not, you're going to waste your time. I think I blew mine up. The original blocks are 7.8 or roughly 8 inches by 8 inches. I think I made it up to 10 inches before I started seeing them get really skewed and get a lot of bad lines. So there's not a slam dunk answer here, but I can tell you that once again, because of those nice black lines, it is the thing that first catches my eye when I am going to find a pattern to do fabric painting on. Okay, so back to the one that I was looking at here. Let me just see. Here's another one. I just purchased this one not too long ago. This is fantastic. Now, you may notice, particularly up in the second, I'm going to kind of see if I can point to that. The daisy, or rather, excuse me, the poppy, they're not 100% closed in, but that's okay. Look at how they chose to stitch this, which is it's more kind of a painterly effect rather than an absolute stitch perfection type of pattern, which you often see in embroidery. So this is one I purchased. I hope I will get, there's a whole series of these out here, by the way. There's sunflowers, there's wildflowers, there's these poppies. I think this would make a fantastic wall hanging, or expand it even further and make it into a table runner. So stay tuned. You might just see this as a new series coming out here very soon. All right, let me pretend for a moment that I've already purchased these patterns, and I want to show you exactly what it is I do to get these patterns ready for stitch out and then to color. I'm going to come down here and open up, which it already is basically, my Art and Stitch program. I'm just going to click on one of these right here. I'm going to close out of this. I don't need to save this design. This is from Urban Threads. This is a pattern that I was auditing for a tote bag, which, by the way, I stitched this out. This looked great. But what I am going to do right now is I'm going to go over and I'm going to look for the original embroidery library pattern. As you can see, I have a ton of patterns here. I I am the queen of embroidery patterns. I don't think there could be anybody that has any more than I do. And I'm not just saying that. I truly do have a lot. I think it's probably just going to be easier if I go back to where I have most of these that I have commercially set up so that you can see this a little easier. I don't want to waste your time watching me search for patterns. So I'm going to go down here and look for ta 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 ta. I'll be in my office. Now, there's a whole bunch of these, and there's a reason why. I do a lot of cleanup work before they come to you guys. And if you decide to do this yourself, contact me if you're having trouble trying to do the cleanup. I'm going to click on this one right here. This is a DST file. I like this particular format. It tends to come across cleaner than just about anything I do. But this is what I end up doing. Now, truly, let me see if I can find, actually, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go back to Embroidery Library. I'm going to go back to this pattern, click here. It says that I've already purchased this pattern. Great. I'm going to go to order history. This is something you should know. If you haven't seen this before, you can type in something like the word office, hit that button there. Oh, look at that. Now there's two of these out here. There's the one that they originally came out with, which was the one with the seamstress focus. But this is the one in the quilting. So once again, I'm just going to download this design. And this is super easy. It comes up here. Here's what I do. I open up where the file location is. There it is. I'm going to copy it. Then I'm going to come over to, I have this backup, and then underneath the backup is embroidery. And you guys are really getting an idea of how I do things now. Embroidery library patterns. It's May of 2025. I'm going to stick it in here. I'm just going to paste. Okay, paste. There it is. Good. Now I'm going to go back to Art and Stitch so that I can open up the original file so that you can see what I did. And let me get to Embroidery Library again. And there we go. May 2025, this pattern. Now, the colors, I don't even worry about. It's going to come over looking really, really weird. Okay? So there's the really weird looking colors. What I like to do right off the bat, whenever I get a new colored version of one of these, is I look for where the design outlines may be. And in this particular case, see this last line right here. I'm going to click on this, and then I'm going to come over here to my design colors. I'm going to go scroll all the way over to black, and I'm going to change those colors to black. So there's those outlines. The next one I'm going to do, and this is totally a crapshoot. I really don't know if this is right or not, but I'm going to give this a try. It looks like these could be outlines. This is firsthand why I'm doing this totally unrehearsed, y'all. So just be aware that this is literally how I do things. Now I'm going to click on the black again. I was very successful there. Look at that. You can see the outlines. Now I'm looking down here and it's looking kind of brownish. I'm going to click on this and just see if I get lucky again. Let's click on this black. I did. Woohoo! This is very unusual. When I'm doing this, I'm not nearly this successful. Okay, so now we know that we have 3 sets of black outlines. Now this is something that I can do in my particular software. You may or may not be able to do it, but I'm going to grab my black outlines. I'm going to bring them all the way down here to my other black outlines. So now I have them all here together. I'm going to hold my shift key down and I'm going to select all of them. And now I'm going to hit the copy button. Then I'm going to hit this new page, in other words, to open up a blank page. And now I'm going to come up here and hit the paste button, and looky there. What I will advise you to do is, if you have a file format like this, you want to check to see if there are any weird stitches that have come across in the translation between Embroidery Library and my software, your software. And I'm going to give you an example. This may or may not work for you. Again, each software is different. But what I like to do is I click on a section, and then I have the ability to see how the design was created. And I can also see where the stop and start are. Now I'm going to zoom in here real quick. Now bear with me, this is a bit wonky here. I have to kind of drag it over to where the stop and start are. Sometimes I have to shift. Now, when people ask me what cleanup do I do, here's a good example right here. This is not where that start button should be. I don't know why, but whenever I download anything from Embroidery Library and Urban Threads, I get these really weird starting points. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag my little green dot to where the red one is, because in fact, I know that's where it's supposed to start. Now you're going to ask yourself, how do I know? This is practice. This is doing this a million times. This is looking at this software a gazillion times. If you do this 10 times or more, you'll master what I'm talking about here. So what I would do now is I would probably come in here and delete. I'm hitting my delete button, and I'm deleting each one of these so that the wonky stitches are now gone. I would go back and repeat this for each one of the sections. Once I was done, I would save the file, the new version, my outline version of this file. Before I did that though, one last thing. I would come in here to wherever you could change your size. Now currently, and this is why I love showing you this, because look at the size of this pattern. It's 7.78 inches high and 6.75 inches wide. If you tried to color this at this size, you would have to work with the tiniest little tips, because there's no way you could get into all these little sections. In fact, notice that the view that I've got here is at 84%. So this is where my magic comes into. I look at this and I say, okay, this is a long file here. So, and I know that my hoop sizes, the largest size I have is 14 by 16. So I think I'm going to just go ahead and push the height to 14 inches. Now in my software, it automatically maintains the aspect ratio. Now I'm going to apply this. Now, one thing I do want you to notice that right this minute, there are 17,526 stitches at this particular size. Now let's see what happens when I hit the apply button. Well, first of all, obviously it jumps right up, but look at how many more stitches get added to it. Now I'm going to zoom this down so we can fit it inside the screen and see it. But that's how I know that I've expanded my file, and it's now 12.15 inches wide with a height of 14 inches. This is the size that you guys typically get when you take a class from me. That is exactly what I do to get a file ready for stitch out. So I hope this helps. Those of you who are probably watching who don't have embroidery machines, you could care less about this. But lately, I've been talking to a lot of people at quilt shows that do have embroidery machines, and they've been asking for a video similar to what I just did. Now, this doesn't have all the details. I could teach an entire class on how to prepare embroidery files for stitching to color on fabric or color with coloring tools. But this is just a quick overview of what it is I do to get files ready to stitch out and then to turn around and sell to all you lovely people out there. So I hope this helps. Again, if you have any questions, comments, leave them below. You know where to find me on my website. I will have that listed in the description. And as always, thank you so much for watching.